Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Noah, your favorite financial analyst, and in today's video, I wanted to welcome you all to the latest episode of Monologue Monday here on my YouTube channel. This is a series where I share my personal opinions on finance-related topics and otherwise. For this episode, I wanted to discuss the question of should you move to a bigger city? I want to try to help answer this question by utilizing my own personal experiences moving to a larger city shortly after graduating from college. With all that being said, let's get into this episode of Monologue Monday. So for this question of moving to a bigger city and should you or should you not move to a bigger city, I think is probably a multi-part episode. I don't know if I can quite cover everything into this one video, but I want to try to cover as many points or talking points as I can to hopefully help you identify or hopefully get you thinking of different topics that you should think about prior to making the commitment to moving out of state or sometimes even out of country. As I stated previously, I want to utilize my own personal experience coming from a city of a sub 100,000 moving into a city of about 1 million people. In this case, it would be going from Appleton, Wisconsin over to Austin, Texas. So one of the first things that I think a lot of people like to think about or what drives them to move to a larger city is really the opportunity cost of doing so. And this is something that I certainly thought of when I was planning my move as well. My initial intention after moving to a larger city was to obtain my PhD from the university there, and kind of start a life there, and do all of that stuff. But what ended up happening was really deciding against education in lieu of different business endeavors, as well as pursuing a career in more so business and coding and so on. I think one of the main things that people think about is, when you're comparing a small city to a larger city, there's just more going on, right? There's more companies, there's more people, it's a larger area, there's larger buildings, there's more money there, right? And that's kind of an obvious reason to move there. And I sort of thought about that myself, and after moving or making the move and kind of experiencing what the city had to offer, I can really corroborate that is certainly a valid reason to pursue a career or a life in a different area. There's just so many different endeavors, different careers, different outlets that you can generate a very good earning from, very good living from, that just simply aren't around in smaller cities. A good example that I can give from a personal experience was when I was in the initial stages of applying for jobs after I felt that my coding ability was sufficient. I actually did look into job opportunities back in Wisconsin, back in the smaller city, and there was absolutely nothing. I could not find a role with the that fit the criteria that I was looking to do, and this could mean one of two things, right? It could mean that there truly aren't any jobs, but more than likely that there were so few and far in between that those postings for them, those opportunities really didn't arise as much as they would in a larger city, and certainly enough when I would look into positions in the Austin area, right, in larger cities, the market online was basically inundated with different opportunities within the specific field that I was looking to get into. I think another good way to kind of think about the difference, in just the sheer amount of different opportunities when you go to larger cities, is that, think of a technology, right? So think of it as some kind of application or a program that is utilized, in a smaller city, right? That, different apps are used all over the world, even in the smallest cities here in the United States. And that's all fine and dandy, but the place that those applications and so on are developed are in bigger cities, right? So even though they're used in all these different parts, the work that comes that's available to develop these are really at different hubs. In this case, they're going to be in larger cities. So I think it's really valid I think it's a very valid point to move to try out different larger cities if this is something that you're looking to do. Because truly, for me personally, it's very eye-opening to see the different types of careers, right? The different ways that you can earn money when you go to these larger areas, and there's just so many opportunities that it really is somewhat endless. And this only makes sense, right? Because of the amount of people that are there, the amount of money that's flowing in and out, and so on. So the next point that I wanted to talk about in regards to considering moving to a different city that I think a lot of people think about is income potential. It kind of goes hand in hand potentially with the first point that I made, but just because you're doing something unique doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to earn a lot of money from it. But I think a lot of people think about this, right? If I go to a bigger city, I'll just earn more by default, right? The cost of living is higher, so my pay naturally needs to be higher as well. And I think this is true to a certain extent. However, I will say that if you're not thinking of your personal financial obligations, the extra money that you're earning from your job can quickly deteriorate when you're in a larger city because of the cost of goods is just a lot. It's not maybe not a lot more depending on where you are, but it is a little bit more than a smaller city. The example I want to share for this is, essentially what happened was when I was working here in Wisconsin, and when I moved my first job after moving, I essentially doubled my salary. But the caveat to that, even though you're thinking, well, if I can double my salary, why wouldn't I leave? The caveat is that I went from paying zero in rent to having a full on lease with electric, utilities, Wi-Fi, and insurance, and all of those other charges that go on with taking on an apartment, in this case in a larger city. And from my personal experience, just talking with different individuals and kind of being in that environment, the wages certainly are higher, but I definitely think that if you don't have a solid idea of what the your peripheral expenses are going to be when you're in this city, right? What's your rent going to be? What about your vehicle and your insurance and your eating and your entertainment? If you don't have a solid understanding of what that's going to be, like I said, you can very easily blow through all of the extra money that you would be earning, from moving to a larger city. That you wouldn't really have taking a lower salary in a smaller area. The third topic that I think a lot of people should think about prior to, a big move like this would be, what kind of experience is being in a bigger city going to be like, right? The safety, the entertainment. I think a lot of people think more about the entertainment and so on than the experience itself, or than the safety itself, pardon me. But I think they're both definitely pretty important to consider. And as far as the experience goes, my personal experience moving to a bigger city and having a lot more stimuli, right? So a lot more entertainment. There's just this entertainment that's not common or not even seen really, in a smaller city. It's certainly there, right? So if you're looking for that, a difference in entertainment, a difference in stimuli, I would definitely consider moving to a larger city. There's just going to be a huge amount of it, and I think the bigger city you go to, the more variety you're going to get in that entertainment space. Now, bringing it back to finance, if you're not prepped for it, right? If you don't have a solid budget to account for these different entertainment endeavors, and going out and dining out and so on, trying to get the big city experience. If you're not properly budgeted for it, as I said, you can quite quickly end up in a bit of a financial hole. And this isn't, obviously it's not ideal, because you're moving to a city to hopefully augment your finances as well. So if you move to a bigger city and your finances haven't changed, sure, you're getting the extra experience of being there, but your finances aren't going to reflect that necessarily. And this kind of segues into what I just previously mentioned, being your safety, right? There's just a natural implication of when you move into a larger area where there's more people, there's naturally going to be, uh, more danger, right? There's humans are, prone to faults, whether they want to do harm or not. So when you go into a more population dense area, it's just natural that you're going to be more exposed to this. And I don't have too many personal anecdotes, thankfully, but generally speaking, after I moved to a larger city, my exposure to stories and headlines that were near my area and things that maybe happened to my car and so on was exponentially more than it ever had been living in a smaller city. So that's just something to consider as well. And obviously, making smart decisions with where you are and what time you're there is something that is very important as well. So in conclusion, what are my thoughts on, is committing, to a big move like this worth it? Is it going to pay off in the long run? I mean, it's one of those things where everything's a gamble, right? Even something like this. But from my personal experience, not only have I, been able to, essentially double my income, basically twice since I've made this move. It has also really opened my eyes to all these different opportunities that I could pursue in life. And I think when I was living in a smaller city, I felt like my gaze wasn't wide enough to consider different alternative ways to make money, alternative ways to learn new skills, or why new skills are more important than others. And it really has been quite a positive experience since I've been there. I don't think I'd be, or actually, I know for certain that I wouldn't be where I am today, in front of this camera, talking to you viewers, if I hadn't made the commitment to move down there alone and, start trying to put the puzzle pieces together. I will say though, if you're not prepped for different financial obligations, right? And this is primarily a finance channel, so I'd be silly not to mention it. If you're not prepped for that, as well as other things that you need to consider, as I mentioned in this video, moving to a bigger city, I think it's something that you should definitely reflect on prior to making that change. Making sure that the job that you're going to have is not only going to fit the bills of being there, but it's also going to support all of the other endeavors that you want to do, in life, whether that be different types of entertainment, or maybe you have savings goals or home goals, investing goals, whatever it may be. Ensuring that all of that information prior to making a commitment, right? Prior to accepting a job offer and so on, is absolutely crucial before making the commitment. One of the final things that I wanted to mention was essentially my personal thoughts on how long it can last to be in a big city, right? Because you don't necessarily move and stay there forever. And I'm actually currently at a point where I feel as though I've gotten kind of, or sort of, almost what I need from the city, where I really enjoy the trips back home here. And this is currently, my office looks a little bit different. I don't have the clothes racks in the background in this office here because I am home. So my studio here is going to look a little bit different, but I've generally found so much more enjoyment in coming home, right? Coming back to the smaller city, because there is just so much stimuli when you're in a large city, even when you don't do anything, like myself. I don't even have a car. So I don't go too many places, but there's something about the change in the speed of the lifestyle, and change in, like I said, that overall stimuli that I've learned to appreciate more after being in a big city this will be going into my 4th year. So essentially what's happening is, the longer I stay in, I have a life in a larger city, the more frequently I'm looking to come back and get out of that environment to come to a more a little bit slower and a little bit steadier lifestyle that you have here in smaller cities. So would I recommend moving out to a bigger city to pursue, different career opportunities and, augment yourself? Probably, yeah, even for a little bit. It's not something that you need to commit to for your whole life, but I think I think really, applying yourself to different skills and different, like I said, different stimuli that you have with all the different opportunities that are in bigger cities is something that can be very beneficial. Now, picking the right bigger city, right, than the one that you're currently in is a pretty big task. So I think that's where you should put the majority of your time, is making sure that once you're in the bigger city, you're at least somewhat comfortable. And I think that will definitely contribute to your overall happiness when you make that move. So there you have it. That concludes this episode of Monologue Monday on the topic of should you or should you not move to a larger city. So there you have it. That concludes this episode of Monologue Monday on the topic of should you or should you not move to a larger city. Per usual, I do want to thank the viewership on the Monologue Monday series. It's something that I do really enjoy doing, and I do hope that you are getting something out of this series here on my YouTube channel. So as always, if you have any questions for me personally, or if you'd like to take a look at the financial services that I can provide to you, I've left my email and a link to my company website in the description box below. As always, thank you so much for your time today, and happy financing.